So as you can see back here, I have a blank space in my wall that's pretty difficult to look at, and I don't want to spend a lot of time filling that void. That's why I got these BAYKA floating shelves. Let's get them open, check them out, and install them up there. Right on top, we find a bag of hardware, which contains some 1 1/4 inch drywall anchors, these 1/2 inch screws for mounting the brackets to the boards, and these roughly 1 1/4 inch screws for mounting the brackets to the wall. We also get 3 sets of these brackets right here. These are made of a high quality powder coated steel. They're rust free. They have a matte black and somewhat textured appearance to them. I really like them. They're pretty stylish. Kind of like an Art Deco appearance, huh? They've got this rounded tube design right here with these flat metal brackets. And you can see that they're 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. We get a nice little instruction manual, and we get 3 shelves themselves. Now the boards here are made of a nice paulownia wood. I like it because it grows quickly, it matures in 10 years. It's nice and lightweight, but it's still really strong for how light it is. These boards have a semi-textured feel to them, definitely smoother than some other paulownia wood shelves that I've put up, but you can still feel that grain in it as well. I also like how it sounds to prove that it's real wood. Now you get 3 different sized boards. The smallest one is about 5.5 inches deep by just under 11.5 inches long and 5/8 of an inch thick. Now they all share the same depth and thickness, but the second largest one is about 14.25 inch long and the largest is 16.5 inches. Before we get started, we need some tools for this job. We're gonna need a pencil. You may need a hammer. You might want to use a stud finder, though you don't have to. These can just be mounted into drywall and plaster and things like that. I recommend a laser level, and you could use a power drill and a screwdriver. I'm just gonna use this stalwart hand drill right here. Now these are really interesting shelves because there's actually 4 different ways that you can install them using these brackets right here. So the first way to install this bracket right here would be to install it just down into it like that. So then this piece would go against the wall and it would be like that. So when you would install it, it would actually flip over and you would just have a nice flat board right here to place anything on top of. The second way would be to place the board down into the bracket like this so that this piece would go against the wall and you would have kind of like a hanging shelf here with a barrier on the outside. And the third way to do it would be kind of splitting those 2 different ways to do it and kind of doing like an inverted look. So one side would look like this with the bracket hanging and the other side would be on the underneath like this. So you would have kind of one side up, one side down. And the fourth and final way to install them is really gonna hide these brackets the most, and that will be by first installing this piece against the wall horizontally like that. And then you would take the board and install it onto the bracket and screw it in on this side. So then at the end, your brackets would kind of be hiding like that on each side and stuck into the wall. But I like my shelving units to kind of have this side bracket here sticking out like that, so that's how I'm going to install mine. But first I need to decide what side of this panel I want actually facing up, and I kind of see a little bit of an imperfection right here, so that's going to face downwards. And then I have to decide which one I want facing forward, and I don't really see any noticeable differences, so it doesn't matter to me. Place the board into the bracket like that, and then flip it over, and then we're going to mark our spots. And we can do that on both sides. Now I want to get these screws started just a little bit before I actually drill them into the bracket. And this paulownia wood's going to allow me to just push this screw in there just a little bit so I can give it a little bit of a start like that, and I have a better idea of where I want my brackets to be. And I'm going to do that for all 4 of them. Now I see that I need a Phillips head for my screwdriver bit. Now I'll reset the bracket and get it screwed into those starts there. I set in one screw and then the other and then drill them in one by one. And now that that's set, I'll do the same thing on the other side. There we go, we got them both screwed in. Let's do that to the other 2 boards as well. We just have to simply repeat that process until all 3 are put together. Once we've got all the shelves assembled, now we can mount them onto the wall. So I know I want to install this shelf right up here. So what I'm going to do is make one mark in one of the top corners where I'm going to put a screw. So I want it to hang right here. I'm going to place my mark right there. I struggled with my hand drill to get into the wall, so I'm going to use my actual power drill to break through. Now we actually have to place this screw through the hole before we drill it into the wall, so I'm going to use my hand drill for that. And I leave it a little bit of room like this so that it can move around while I mark my next spots on the wall. You'll make your next mark by moving your shelf until it's about horizontal, and then you'll make a vertical line above the drill hole. Now I have a mark right here. Now that I have that mark there, I can use my laser level to make a horizontal line below that vertical line. Okay, I have my bubble level and I have the laser going through the middle of this screw, so I'll make my horizontal line beneath that vertical one. Now I'm gonna raise the shelf up to that horizontal line and make a mark in all the rest of the holes. If I have it lined up right there, I make my mark, another mark, and a fourth mark. At this point, I already have 1 screw in and 3 marks. I'm going to open those up with my power drill. And just keep in mind, if you're drilling into drywall, you might want to use a drywall anchor at this point and just hammer one of these into those holes right there to make sure that your screws hold. This is laminate plaster, I think for me. It's a little bit older of a building, so this works just fine what I'm doing. Now that that's done, we reposition the shelf and insert the 3 screws. And just do it loosely at first until all 4 are in. Now all 4 of them are in there. It's just a little bit wobbly. All I have to do is tighten them up, and then I can repeat the process for every single shelf. Okay, that's feeling nice and sturdy. Let's get the rest of them up and see what they can do. You can see I've got some wall dust and stuff like that on it. Really easy to clean off with just a damp rag. And there you go. So I did run a little test on these 3 shelves right here to see the best way to insert the screws. And on this one here, you can see how sturdy it is. And on this one here, you can see how sturdy it is. And that's because I put in all 4 screws. On this one here, I left out the bottom 2 screws, and you can see it's got a little bit more wobble to it and a little bit more shake and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend you insert all 4 screws to keep these nice and tight against the wall. So let's see what they can actually hold up. Looks like they're great for books, for plants, for small decorations and knickknacks. You can put pretty much anything on these. They hold up to over 40 pounds. So I'm really happy with how easy it was to fill this void in my wall over here using these shelves. And I think they're gonna be really good for anybody else who's looking for that really easy to do DIY project if you have some shelves you wanna put up. And if there's any negatives, I'm always reminded when I'm hanging floating shelves that they don't actually float. They do have to be screwed into things. So I am looking forward to the day when we have actual levitation.